Hey guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm Joe Klemczewski here with Shannon Morse, and we're going to talk about your presentation at the Diet Doc Annual Conference, Shannon, because not only did I think it was amazing, but I tasked you with being the tip of the spear for what our theme was. And in my mind, out of two or three kind of sub-themes, I definitely want to talk about what it means in today's current fitness industry and nutrition climate to create a client experience. So many people, and I know this is a paramount precept, just focus on the information. They want to make sure it's scientifically valid. Everybody talks about being evidence-based and all of those things. But at the same time, from the perception of the client, they don't get any of that. All they're getting is, how does this feel? What is this experience like? Is this process right for me? And I think of all the people I know, I'm not sure I could say anybody matches your intent with what I just said. You know, you want to give a client the single best experience they have. So first of all, am I right? Is that something that you put a lot of thought into with your business?
Yes, I think it's almost past thought. It's just how I tend to operate in the world. I don't even think I give myself a choice, which is an interesting part of it. But yes, I think that client experience for me is really connecting with the person and figuring out what it is that they're actually looking for, and then delivering on that, and even delivering past what they know is possible, which is a really interesting thing. So then you have to discover what their why is, and their why might be something that they saw in a magazine, but helping them to understand that that magazine may not actually be what their root why is. We get so kind of caught up in the general social norms of what we're supposed to want. And then when we're able to get really deeper into it, we might notice that, oh, we don't actually want that at all. And so to be able to provide someone the actual thing that they didn't even know that they really wanted is a pretty phenomenal experience. And so I think the community aspect that we've really been talking a lot about goes into that as well. I think all of us really want that, and we may not even realize that that's what we want.
So it sounds like, and I know this has to be true, you view every client as a blank slate. So when you get that client inquiry and they're just kind of feeling out who you are, if this is right for me, what is that process like internally for you? What are you trying to draw out of that potential client, or what are you trying to get them to understand about you and your process?
Yeah, so just going into like the actual literal process, when we do our consultation calls, that goes first. And I have a very specific format for it. And that format goes into, first I listen. I listen to why they came to me, what they want, what's worked, what hasn't worked for them in the past. And then from there, I can actually plumb through the information that I can give them that will be specific to what they're looking for. And also to maybe demyth some ideas that they have about things that are good or bad, and then how we can move forward in that. And then I really let them decide, if this is right for you, we can move forward. If it doesn't feel right for you, then it's okay. I want it to feel right for you. And then inside of our intake form, which comes after that, we really are pretty detailed. It's got to be kind of annoying for some people, because we want to get as much information out of them as possible. And the information is about their lifestyle, about their work schedule, their travel schedule, who they cook for. Are they cooking for themselves? Are they cooking for others? And then how they cope with stress. If they can soothe themselves appropriately by themselves, if they feel like their thoughts create their reality, which is a kind of big one. So with that information, I feel like we're able to really kind of understand the personality or any sort of challenges that the person might have coming in. And then we can better support them in terms of how our communication will move going forward.
And it's funny that you left with that, because that was my whole thought as you were explaining that, was this is a lot of communication. It's a lot of intimacy and a lot of sharing. So how do you handle that? How do you let that roll between you and a client?
The intimacy. Well, I feel like the client actually directs that. I leave the door open for whatever they want to share. One of the first lines that I will write in the week 1 of coaching is, this is our discovery phase. As much as you want to share with me, it will help me to support you, but that's totally up to you. So this door is open for whatever's going on in your life. Everything is going to have an impact. And the more you can share, or the more you feel comfortable sharing, the more I'll be able to help you understand the whys, or just be a area where you can vent, because a lot of people do some venting.
Mm-hmm. And this being part of our fitness entrepreneurship series, we have a lot of coaches who listen in. How does that go with you and the client? Is this all through email, or how do you foster some really personal information?
Yeah, totally. So the majority in the week is through email. We also do coaching calls depending on their level of support. And then I'll see them at least once a month for an in-person, in-body check-in to do body composition scans. Although now with our, variety of clients that are sometimes international now, we'll do Skype calls. And I find that those are super helpful. Some people are actually now requesting that the calls that we would have are through FaceTime or Skype, because they want that face-to-face time. But we also do, if people are training with me, like doing actual movement, then we'll see them in person. And now we're doing, grocery store navigation and cooking in their kitchen, which I did this weekend, which was just an amazing way to actually build that trust in the community, because I'm there in their house, in their kitchen, meeting their kids and their husband or whoever it is. And so we want to leave the door open for as much contact as they would like, because that contact is so important. And I think in our industry, there is so many kind of cookie cutter programs where it's just, let's really hit the masses. But it's not a cookie cutter program. Everyone's individual.
Yeah, and that was actually the biggest theme of our annual conference, which is, I made this statement when I kind of opened up the conference that so many people get into coaching now and they think, I want to have this $20 million empire, and they completely miss that step, which is, first, you should probably try and conquer your own community, become a leader, become somebody who's known, somebody who is cemented into some kind of physical space. Because when you can start there, not only is that probably the best way to not be putting all of your eggs in one basket, but it really gives you tentacles into a community that lasts generationally. I mean, I personally, in my city, am working with, kids of parents I worked with 15 and 20 years ago. And, the referral networks just never stop. And if you just start with that online coaching model, I think you really miss that. And again, you're one of the people I've seen do this best, because I know your rise into the coaching arena, I think, happened when you did, create a physical space with a gym in San Francisco. And then, I saw you just elevate up into all kinds of other opportunities that you would have never had if it were not for that stability.
No, I totally agree. And as the culture and the social media is now evolving, even though we are evolving through social media and people are getting eyes, there's really no compromise when you're able to actually physically go into a place and meet someone in person and know that they are human and they're not just a bot that's responding to messages automatically. So I totally agree. Yeah.
In just a social psychology venue, it to me is almost cumulatively doubling the power. When you respond to somebody, and this happens to me online, I'll get an email from somebody I don't know. They're just inquiring or have a question, and they're surprised that, wow, you actually responded to me. I can't believe that happened. And so that's one level you can continue that online relationship. And then if you get on a phone call, you're voice to voice, you can hear each other, and that's something else. But like you said, with a Skype or FaceTime or any kind of a video chat, then you really get to not only engage those mirror neurons and all those neurochemical pathways, but you really feel like, now I know somebody. But there's one more level, which is to be sitting with that person face to face. And I know that in our own company, some of our program owners, don't ever get that opportunity. They don't come in for corporate training. They don't come to an annual conference. They don't come to a regional meeting, something like that. And it really does create a little bit of a feel of disconnect that we just don't have when we know somebody that personally. And so I know for a client interaction, it's got to be the same. Those clients who see you face to face, I mean, you're creating friendships and trust for life.
Oh, totally. The more points of contact we have, I think the better. Yeah. And everyone kind of has a different personality in all those points of contact. I know I have two personalities in email. I have my work mode and I have my unicorn mode.
So if you could tell everybody, coaches out there, people just getting started, that client experience is the most important thing, what would your process be in even teaching that? So let's say you've got a new coach just working under you and you're trying to teach them the ropes. How would you explain this entire topic?
Well, we actually have a full folder G Drive tutorial for that. So I don't feel like it's easy to necessarily explain, but I do feel like for new coaches that it would be pretty powerful to shadow. Like I think some coaches are shadowing Corey and being able to see her process and how her communication flows. And I honestly think that that's a really powerful tool for new coaches to be able to shadow someone who they believe in their model, their morals, their type of communication, and their success with their clients, so that they could actually, get a hands-on tactile experience of what that looks and feels like. If that's not an option, I think that the first step is to listen to the client, understand what it is that they need, what it is that they're looking for, what it is that they don't know they might be looking for, and then build as many points of contact as possible to really support them, because their ultimate success is going to mean your ultimate success in most cases. So,
and how do you, one last question, how do you dig into a client? Let's say they're not sharing as much. You, in that discovery phase, you gave them the open door, but they're just kind of mechanically going through the motions, and maybe they're seeing some good success, maybe not. Do you do anything to draw them out? How do you tap into more of that social, personal aspect of who they are?
Let me see. I don't know if I can actually explain this one effectively. All I know is that when I see a thread of something that maybe someone doesn't want to necessarily look at, I think when you speak to someone, you can, or when they are sharing or even not sharing, the not sharing sometimes says just as much as the sharing when they are looking to avoid certain topics. And so I open the door, but I open the door to the questions, as in I'll say, for example, I'm trying to think of an example here, but if there's something that I feel like is not being addressed accordingly, or is not really being looked at or being avoided and continually avoided, I will open the door of opportunity to directly ask if there's something that might be outside of what we're discussing that's affecting them, that they might want to talk about, even if it's just to vent. Because sometimes nobody really wants coaching on certain areas of their life. They just want someone to listen. And so that can sometimes open the door. But at the same time, if someone doesn't want to get that deep, it's not my job to ask them to go deeper if that's not where they want to go. So I do feel like I respect the personal boundaries as well.
Yeah, one of the things that you said, a big part of your presentation, was to share your story. If you want to grow a business that you're happy with, that you're proud of, that is creating client experience at the best level, then you've got to be vulnerable yourself. You have to share, part of you. And I think that's what just innately would draw people out and feel comfortable discussing anything with you.
Totally. Absolutely. And that's something that I think is just done kind of all the time.
Yeah. All the time for you, maybe not for other coaches,
That's so true.
Yeah, which is why a lot of people end up wandering around, firing one coach after another, because they just never feel like they're really connected to something, good enough to be connected to.
Yes, very good point. Yes, I agree with that completely. If we don't share what our own vulnerabilities are, that's going to be really hard for someone else to open up and share theirs. Yes.
Well, awesome, Shannon. I appreciate that. We're going to have all of your information in the show notes, but as the owner of the Diet Doc San Francisco and in somewhere in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Yep. Or North Carolina and South Carolina.
with Lisa.
Uh-huh.
And also you have created a company called the Green Door Life. So that's something people can look at in terms of getting information that is a little bit more holistic other than just nutrition. So we're going to put all that information in the show notes, but just very quickly, if somebody is listening to this through audio, what would be the best way to get your information?
Going to the dietdoclifestyle.com.
Okay.
Yep. That's the best way. Thank you.
All right, Shannon, thank you for being with me, and thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time with more of our highlight reel from the 2019 Diet Doc Annual Conference.